Hi, this is Lejeune with Lejeune Singleton LLC, Fitness, Health, Nutrition, and Wellness Podcast, Season 4. I would like to introduce my Bali sister, yoga meditation coach, Candace Banks. Thank you for joining me, Candace.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Can you give a background on yourself?
Sure. I'm based here in Atlanta. I am Georgia born. I'm from South Georgia, moved to Atlanta in 1999 for college. I went to Clark Atlanta University. Post-graduation, I ended up staying in Atlanta, but I wasn't quite sure I knew what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to go to law school, and that just wasn't happening, which is somewhat where my yoga journey started. Post graduation, not having a full-time job, thinking like, what's going to go on, living with family, knowing that I need to work to support myself. I started going to the gym to work out. I'd always been pretty active, and this particular gym had a yoga class. I'd never done yoga in my life. I started going and I really, really liked it. And the teacher was really good. And she was like, oh, you're really, really good at it. And so it was a time where in life, I just didn't know what was next. And it was a great outlet. I think at the time I wasn't thinking mentally, just physically to kind of just work out. But now thinking back on it, now that I am a yoga instructor myself, it was perfect for what was going on in my life at the time. Fast forward, maybe I guess 3 years ago now, lots of transition in life. And I started going to a new yoga studio. And they're like, oh, you're really good. And I guess from that almost a 10 to 15 year span in between the two times, I was amazed at how much that my body remembered, like the different movements in the posture. So I was like, well, this is really cool. And then it's like, well, do you want to take it to the next level and actually become an instructor? Completed the program, really enjoyed it. In my mind, I kind of always knew that I didn't want to do it full time. That was never my goal. But I strongly believe in sharing yoga. I think that yoga is for everybody. And I knew that I wanted to share it. Maybe about a year ago, more and more into my practice of meditation, got some certifications in that. I've also had some certification in trauma-informed yoga, as well as restorative. And so that's kind of my background on becoming a yoga and meditation instructor, teacher, coach.
Okay. And it's interesting that you talk about trauma yoga. Can you kind of give a detail on what that looks like? Because I've never heard of that one.
Sure. So trauma-informed yoga is just a thought process, right? Of most people who think of yoga, number one, think about it for mostly fitness, like stretching. Some people now begin to think about the breath work behind it and the mindfulness, but it's mainly like the body movements. And when we say trauma-informed yoga, first of all, let's talk about trauma, right? And
Right.
we talk about, there's this awesome book, The Body Never Forgets. And so when we talk about trauma and the body just, it really doesn't forget. And so, terrible things that happen in your childhood, you kind of always remember it. And then you have these triggers in adulthood. But for yoga, I like to give the example, there's certain postures that we do where, they're heart opening, the legs are long and perhaps open. But let's say you're a victim of rape. Even that posture of being in a class, potentially with other people that you do not know, that's not comfortable.
Right.
And so when even the cues that we give as a trauma-informed instructor, it's just keeping in mind that just certain things that we say, some people are not going to be comfortable with it. So it begins, to change our language. When I conduct my meditations, you hear people say, close your eyes. Well, everybody doesn't feel safe to close their eyes. Everybody's not in an environment where they can close their eyes because maybe you live with an abusive person, right? So I give the option to close your eyes or glance lightly at the floor or, partly close your eyes. So it's mainly it's thinking about the language that we use and the cueing and leading people in yoga and meditation. So that's the trauma informed of it. And also thinking about certain people, it doesn't have to be like necessarily tragic, but if you've been in a car accident, certain things that may have happened in the body, again, it's trauma and the body doesn't forget. So perhaps your hips are not as open, or perhaps your left side is just a little bit more stiff. That's okay. Yoga is still for you, right? There are still certain postures and movements that are accessible for you. And as instructors, we just need to think about that when leading our students.
So what's the difference from the trauma and the restorative yoga?
So restorative yoga is rest. And it's not even a slow yoga. Some people say, these terms, slow yoga, there's tons of other names, but restorative is mainly the one that you kind of see with the props. So you've got your blankets, you've got that bolster, you've got pillows, you've got your blocks. It is slower in that you stay in your postures longer. Mm-hmm. So in a yoga class, there's flow, the vinyasa, it goes with the breath, inhale, exhale, and you're kind of moving. Sometimes you can work up a really good sweat doing yoga. Restorative, it's completely slowed down. You may stay in that one posture for 10 minutes. Oh, wow. And so the goal there is to completely relax and to get true rest. Some people say plenty of people can go to sleep, but are they truly getting rest? And you can actually get rest without going to sleep. And so are you allowing yourself, number one, for your body to totally relax and allow the props to support you, the props and the floor to support you? And so that's the true restorative yoga. Which again, I love, especially for, busy people that, really don't get a lot of rest. Taking a restorative class or having a one-on-one session with someone to do restorative can be amazing.
And it's amazing that you speak about sleep and rest, because I know for myself, I can tell times where I'm sleeping okay, but I'm not fully rested. Mm-hmm. So do you believe that the relaxation of the mind and the body all plays a part of how we sleep and really getting that full rest that makes that sleep, very impactful for us?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Growing up, my mom used to talk about, she could take power naps, right? You get 10, 20 minutes, and she's like, I'm rested. I can go another, so many hours. And so, again, growing up, not thinking about that, I was impressed, like, wow, okay, she's rested enough to take on more of life, right? And so I think we have those concepts, and now we have these different terms, and collectively we're thinking about these things. But yes, the mind, the breath, the body, it's all connected. And to get that true rest, they've all got to be aligned. Mm-hmm. You've got to be thinking about all of them. So it is relaxing the body, the stillness. We hear yoga and meditation, stilling the body and the mind and getting control of the breath and how quickly you can kind of drop into that. And whether it's just surface level, even the different depths of sleep, right? Like how sleep are you? It's just falling, I like to think, into the body and reaching that point where the outside is not constantly distracting you.
So is there something that you do before you go to bed to help you really get that restful, peaceful sleep?
Probably not, especially not recently. Like, I've been really busy with other things going on. And I personally, I don't have any problem going to sleep. Like, I'm that person. It could be a total party going on next door. If I'm tired, I'm going to go to sleep. I don't hear it, or, people like, well, excuse me if I'm snoring. I'm not going to hear it. When it's sleep time, I'm in the bed or on my couch. I am asleep. And I don't know. I just think naturally I'm like that. But also I'm conscious of my breath and body. And I can I just fall into myself pretty easily. Meditation and yoga and in this work is a practice. And so the more you practice, the better that you get at it. And so you just have the ability to just go there. And there's certainly other factors that happen, right? I mean, some people have insomnia. There are other conditions that, can be not helping you get there, but getting control of that breath and the mind can really help you fall into yourself. But I don't have a special ritual that I do it.
Okay. Yeah, because, I know some people can say they can just fall asleep and, they wake up restful. And there's some that say, I have a hard time going to sleep, or if I go to sleep, I really don't feel like I slept. I just felt like, I shut down, but my body doesn't feel like I got enough sleep or I slept at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, you've got what's possibly distracting you or what's keeping you up. And, normally it's kind of the mind. You're thinking about something, you're thinking about the next day, or perhaps you haven't let something go from earlier in the day or something else. Being able to release things and say, hey, for this time, I'm for my, myself, because life is happening, life is heavy, but for these hours, I'm going to release it. I'm going to let it go so that I can get some sleep. And you got to be able to do that. Sometimes life happens, you got to pick it up the next day, but your body deserves the rest, and everyone deserves sleep and a restful sleep. So it's worth practicing.
Definitely agree. So how long did it take you to feel like you really implemented your yoga and meditation from where you started to now? Because I know for myself, it's like a turn on, turn off, and I'm not consistent with it. And the meditation, turning the brain off it can be a challenge.
Sure. I think it's a constant journey. As much as it's a practice, it's a journey. And the yogis are always trying to get to this higher level, right? But it's a journey. People are human, and making it a practice, and also not treating it, I think, also as also this thing over here. Like, there's a gold. I like to say I can do meditation driving in my car. So it's, I over the past weekend, I went back home to visit family, and in driving back up to Atlanta, it was horrible rain, just awful. I'm in the car by myself. I can feel the anxiety, like, oh my gosh, here comes an 18-wheeler. I got my little Honda, and I'm like, oh, you pass an accident. I feel my anxiety. And I'm not normally a very anxious person, but I feel it, right? I feel it in my body. I can feel it in my breath is differently. And so I start my breath work. I start a meditation. Obviously, my eyes are open because I'm driving, but a quick 5 minutes of the breathing, centering myself, I was okay. And so it's not like, oh, on my calendar, every night or every morning, I've got to do my 15 minutes. I don't like to necessarily think of meditation that way. I think meditation and yoga, they have to be these tools that we can readily access when we really need it. The practice of it, the daily practice of it, I think helps to get better. But ultimately, you want to be able to pull that thing and use it. And so, I was able to do that on Monday quickly. I was like, okay, yeah. And it worked, right? That's what I needed. So whether I, had a streak of a 15-minute meditation or not, but again, I had that tool. I was able to dial into myself, see what's going on, and then what I need to do. Same with yoga, I don't necessarily got to have the 60-minute class and the hot class, which I like. I love hot yoga. But again, what's happening in my body, something's different. What posture, what can I do to help me? And again, that could be 1 minute, that could be 5 minutes. My viewpoints on life, when things are happening, I want to be able to have the tools to say, okay, this is what I need to help me get through this moment. And so to me, that is kind of the ultimate of like you incorporating yoga and meditation into your life. Now, I would say for me, I think a true acknowledgement of it was last year, being in a pandemic, obviously never been in a pandemic before. Right. There was huge anxiety that was new for me, living alone, worried about parents, what's next? How long is this going to be? Is it safe to go out? And so really dialing into those tools that I had, from personal practice, from becoming an instructor, I was able to really use those in a very real way. And that was important. And so that means the most to me.
And definitely during the pandemic, a lot of people experience anxiety, a lot of people experience depression and fear and those type of things. And we're still going through this pandemic. So what advice would you give to them?
Do the work and practice. Practice the meditation. Currently right now, the meditation and the breath work is so important to me. And, do meditations, find an app, practice some of the breath work, just become knowledgeable of your breath. I always say some people, you don't even know when you're holding your breath. A lot of times we hold our breath. Yes. You could be watching a movie and be like, what's going to happen? But we do so much of that just in our daily life. So it's like that inhale and exhale, just be mindful of it, just to say, okay, wow, there's changes in my body. But allow it to become a practice and just give yourself grace and don't make it I've got to take this class. All right, you can want to take this class, but again, think about incorporating it into the daily. So again, you want to be able to just drop into it. Okay, let me stop. I've got 50 emails coming in. My task is long. Oh my goodness, I can't believe somebody asked me for something else. Oh my goodness. In all of that, you got to be able to, okay, stop. I know what I need to do. I need to stop. I'm going to give myself a 4-count breath. That's what I'm going to do. And just do it. Just do it. It's going to change your outlook. It's going to change you, and you'll be able to continue to get through that day. I would like to see people incorporate it more that way and begin to think about it being a tool that you need to use. It's not a goal of, oh my, again, I did, 10-minute meditations for the last 30 days. That's great. If you and your boyfriend are getting into it, or you and your partner, and you can't pull that tool out to calm yourself down, or then what's the purpose, right? Or if something is happening and then you do have that maybe panic attack or other thing, then what was the purpose of the practices that you did for the last 30 days?
Sure.
Begin to see yourself incorporating these tools on a daily, at the grocery store, at your kid's school. That's when I need to use it. And so, okay, giving yourself grace and maybe I missed a couple of days in my practice, but hey, I know what's in my tool belt of mindfulness and what I need to regulate my body, and I'm going to practice that.
And I definitely like how you said that it should be more of a tool and not something that you have to do, because I think now that it has become a craze where people, you hear meditation, but people don't really know how to properly incorporate it and use it, where, you hear, well, you should do it when you wake up in the morning, you should do it before you go to bed. But like you said, it makes a lot of sense where if you're in traffic or you're in a grocery store, you're frustrated, or you're at work or whatever the case may be, and you're frustrated, it should be implemented in your day to kind of bring you down.
Yeah. You've got to be able to use it like when you really need it. And that's what it's for. And again, the practice is that you can just fall into it so quickly, right? And so again, in the car, I didn't normally, when I do my meditation practice, I got the cushion, I got the mat, I got the apps and the music. I like all of that, candles going. But in true using my tool, that's not happening. But I know, okay, number one, being conscious, okay, whoa, I feel my heartbeat, my breath is a little different. Okay, I'm anxious. Oh my goodness, what do I need to do? What do I need to stop the car? Oh, I got to get home because I got to go to work. All these things are going through my head. And I'm like, okay, calm down and breathe. Calm down and breathe. You cannot close your eyes. You don't have meditation music going. You don't have the candles going, but you need to become mindful right now. You need to become mindful right now, and you need to do it quick.
Right.
And I think that's the thing. You want to be able to assess it quickly. And again, as you do it more, the practice, you'll get it. But I didn't need to do it for 10 minutes. I just, again, a minute, 5 minutes. Okay. I'm back to myself. I'm centered. I can do this. I'm going to get home and safe in one piece. Yeah.
So are you more aware now of when you're holding your breath?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because definitely for me, I can notice where, especially when I'm driving, because I've been in 3 car accidents in 2.5 years, and I'm driving and my shoulders are literally up to my ears and I'm holding my breath, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm not breathing.
Yeah. And you'll feel, in speaking with doctors and again about the trauma to the body.
Right.
So people in accidents, again, the body tenses, the impact, that makes it even worse. Hopefully everybody's, wearing a seatbelt, but again, if you could control and loosen the body a little bit, then the body is gonna, move a little bit with the impact. It probably wouldn't be as bad. But again,
Mm.
tightening the muscles in the body, again, it's going to be, and you'll have that trauma here, right? So maybe when you're getting your massages, it's like, okay, extra attention in here. Well, because the body remembers the impact here.
Right, right.
So if it's just, again, being mindful, and just learning to take some breaths, every now and then. You'd be like, oh my goodness, maybe I didn't. I haven't been breathing, because then you're like, that's so much different. It's like, yeah, because you were holding your breath. Are you? Yeah, you weren't really breathing. So the breath work is so important, and really that's more for me personally. Learning, newer techniques. That's something that I'm looking forward to getting into forward in my personal practice, and what I want to be able to share with others is the true breath work and different types and counts and that type of thing.
And with yoga and meditation, for you being an instructor, coach, is there continuous learning that you yourself implement to make sure when you're working with clients that you make sure that you're up to new things? Because I'm sure people come to you and they'll say, well, have you heard about X, Y, and Z?
Absolutely. And I love learning, and I still, for me, one of the reasons why I even in my becoming, certified in it, I never wanted to abandon my personal practice. Mm-hmm. I love my personal yoga practice, right? And so I learn from other teachers all the time. I want to experience it. And so, because honestly, when you're teaching it or instructing it, you're giving the cues and you're not necessarily doing it. And a lot of teachers, true teachers, full-time yoga teachers, they lose their personal practice. And sometimes they need it the most. Right. So you definitely want to be dialed into your personal practice. So I'm constantly learning from other instructors. But yeah, I definitely, try to stay up to date with different things that are going on. Again, I really enjoyed up until, 2 years ago, I had never heard of the trauma-informed yoga, and it was mind-blowing. I was like, okay, yeah, I definitely want to know more about that. And because it's also, in helping another big demographic for young people that I hadn't thought of before, which is, really important for them. School-age kids with bullying and so many different things, and growing up in horrible environments, it's really good for them too.
And as you said that, one of my friend's daughter came to her, and I guess she was having a bad day, and she's like, Mom, sit down, let's meditate. And she's 7, and she's like, okay, where the heck does she know meditation from? So they are starting to implement it in schools.
And I love it. I think it's the best thing. Because they need it. They need it. Again, the self-regulating the system, that's what needs to happen. You all these other things like, and that they're real, ADHD and all these other things, and that have kind of been medicated certain kids, and not that that's wrong. I make no choose any sides on it, but I think the meditation and the mindfulness and the yoga can be a tool for a kid who's having some problems self-regulating their system. They're young, their hormones, they're growing, they've got the bullies, problems at home. And, I've got this teacher who's telling me to sit down and read, and I'm like, and that kid is labeled bad or unruly. But what if that kid had a technique that he or she could self-regulate? Okay, Number one, to become knowledge. Okay, they can feel, because it's probably anxiety or something else going on with them too, right? And they can feel it, and instead of acting out and being labeled this bad kid, them being able to check their system and say, okay, let me do my 5 count breath, walk myself through it, and I can get through this class. I can now get through this class and now, hopefully go to speak with a counselor or speak with another adult or my parent, and I can talk about it. But in this moment, I don't need to scream or, throw a desk or something. That's so powerful for kids at that age and, school age. And I think just really changes potentially the trajectory of that kid. And
it also helps, kids deal with their emotions, because that is a major thing, because kids are either happy, sad, or mad. So it's teaching them how to deal with their emotions. Also with adults, like some adults, we are still have that challenge of dealing with our emotions.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of us, if we learned it as children, we'd be better off. So yeah, there's no age limit on learning.
Right. Definitely.
A practice. You got to keep doing it.
Definitely. So I met you in 2019 in Bali at a retreat. What was the start? Because I know you mentioned at the retreat, you have been to a retreat previously. What was it about retreats that pegged your interest to start going?
Number one, I love to travel. I love to travel. I also, both of the retreats were woman focused. I believe in the power of women. I believe that women connecting and doing things and building together, that they go further and can get more things accomplished. So that is what attracted me, being around like-minded women, possibly, have different things going on, but this is a group that, is maybe looking for or doing something different. And just being, mindful overall. I think you can't ever go wrong with Bali. It's just this truly magical place with some amazing people there. And so that was the main thing.
Okay, and I know every morning, like clockwork, you were going to the yoga classes, and I was like, okay, I admire her commitment, because, I would come, you were leaving after the classes, and I was going to the gym and going to breakfast, and it was like, okay, she is committed to yoga.
I have a strong commitment to yoga. More so at that time actually than I do now, in that morning yoga aspect of it. But I had made the commitment. Like I'd said to myself, I'm going to get up and do it. Because listen, technically, I'm not a true morning person. I can sleep in. So I had set that intention. I'd set that goal for myself. And I did want to commit myself to it. And then I was up to have an amazing breakfast, right? Which is also really good there. But it was about setting the intention and doing it. And just it was such a beautiful, outside area, and it was gorgeous. So it was very helpful.
So how did Bali and the retreat, how did that change your life, or did it change your life, your experience?
Again, I think, I was in Bali twice.
Right.
First time, I think one of the most powerful things that changed me, and I don't know if I've shared this story with you, but when we were there was an earthquake. And I guess this was in 2018. At that time, there had been another huge earthquake and tsunami that really wiped out part of the island. So we were there, have this earthquake. literally it's first time ever experiencing an earthquake, literally, halfway around the world. It's different, and something's happening, and you immediately like, well, let me turn on the TV and look at the news and turn on CNN, and I could have turned on the TV and I would not have understood anything they were saying.
Right.
It's you stop, you get through it. We're on a very nice resort in Bali. Get up, and the people there, the reaction of the people there who were not afraid, who were unwavered in their faith, that their daily prayers, and their practice of their faith in prayer daily is unmatched. I've never seen anything like it. But that, they pray daily that they are covered and saved, and that God or whoever, they pray to is going to protect them.
Right.
And for me, seeing that faith and thinking like, man, 2 months ago, 2,000 people died from a tsunami. And so for you to wake up the next day and do your daily task and make sure, my pancakes are warm, that is a reflection or a true exercise of faith that I hadn't seen in that way. I had not seen in that way. And that changed me. I've always been a person, I'm a Christian and believer, but just seeing it shown up in that way, and maybe at a time that I needed in my life, it was huge for me. It changed me, that I'll always remember and hold with me. And I think meeting the people, and I guess this can happen anytime you travel, but both times I've met some amazing people that have connections with since then. And I think that's important. Again, I have such a powerful belief in women and women connecting and women being able to be friends and not be catty and different things. Right. I think that's powerful. For me to believe it and to see it, and it's not everybody and it's not always perfect, but for the most part, both experiences, showed that for me, and I'm grateful for it.
And I definitely agree about, the people that live in Bali. They were just so caring and free and giving in their faith. Like literally when we were leaving, the people that I saw every morning kind of built that rapport. They came to me, they hugged me, they were like, are you going to come back? And I'm like, I'm going to try to come back soon. And they were so happy. You never once saw anyone who was down, who was mad, who was rude. Everybody was so pleasant.
Yeah. I'll tell you, even with this whole pandemic, one of our drivers there texted me on WhatsApp, and it not, hey, can you send me some money? Whatever it was, right. Oh my gosh, we're praying for you. Oh, wow. The world is in just such an awful place. Just know that there are prayers coming from Bali. I'm like, oh my God, this guy probably meets 1,000 people, right? Right. And he could have sent it to 100,000 people. But again, he's in Bali. Like, I don't know what the numbers are like, access to mask and all these other things that, we got, hey, I can get my, Uber Eats and ship it, as much anxiety that I had, I was for the most part safe, right? Blessed and safe. I was able to still work. I didn't lose my job. So immensely blessed. And I had a lot of anxiety. To get a text message from a man that I met a few times, again, halfway around the world, praying for me, praying for all of us to be well, again, it just, I think, speaks to the people. It really speaks to the people.
And they had tremendous faith. So I definitely, would say that definitely changed me coming back, becoming more appreciative of the things that I had where they didn't really have a lot there. So that meant a lot. It was like, okay, well, let me take a look at myself because I'm mad that my paycheck is wrong and they're making less than minimum wage, if that there.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's truly amazing. And I've traveled a lot of different places, but the people in Bali, they are special. It is a special place. I would say
it is. So
a vortex of all the alignments. Bali's got it.
Yes. So please, anyone, when the world gets a little better, I would suggest going, but I wouldn't suggest going right now because that's a long flight. So definitely when things get better, definitely check it out. So what's next for you and any upcoming classes? What's next?
I want to start offering more. I was not one of I was starting to do more in-person yoga in like a smaller boutique studio here in Atlanta right before the pandemic. And then it stopped. And then, it was this whole shift about like, well, are you going to pivot? And are you going to start doing virtual and all these things? And that became a little overwhelming for me. I have a pretty small place and it's like, well, I'm not ready for my little home where I stay all the time to also become a full studio with lights and mics and all those things. So I gave myself grace and didn't turn my living room into a yoga studio. But I want to begin to offer more. So, offer more yoga, offer more meditation. Personal learning for me is getting more into the breath work. So yeah, there's more to come from Candace Wellness Yoga.
Okay. And where can they find you for services when, you do start up?
Yeah, so you can email me, CandaceWellnessYoga@gmail.com. I am on IG at Candace Wellness Yoga. Feel free to message me and reach out.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being a part of my podcast. And definitely I learned a lot because now you're going to have me in the car doing meditation. When that, 18-wheeler gets too close, I'm like, oh yeah, Candace did mention I can do like a 2-minute meditation to bring down my anxiety and check in on my breathing. So we'll definitely do that. So if you can give your email again and your IG where they can find you.
Again, that's Candace Wellness Yoga at gmail.com, and on Instagram, that's Candace Wellness Yoga. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. And again, definitely tune into your bodies. Pay attention to how you're breathing. Pay attention when you're having anxiety. And anxiety is definitely big with the pandemic, before the pandemic, work, everything. Check in on your breathing, do some meditation, do some yoga, exercises, something, take a walk to kind of bring yourself down, because your health and your anxiety and your stress does affect your health and puts you higher risk for any type of chronic illnesses as well as COVID. So thank you again. Till next time, this is LeJune Singleton, LLC.